Okay, I'd like to call this public hearing to order. It is 6 o'clock on August 5th, 2025. Mrs. Colasar, please call the roll.
Hedges.
Here.
Tice.
Here.
Klitzka.
Absent.
Hallinan.
Here.
Moats.
Here.
Lukasak.
Here.
Duval.
Here.
Was the notice of this public hearing published in our local newspaper?
Yes, it was.
What were the dates of that publication?
June 5th, 2025.
Okay. And could you please read the public hearing notice that was in the paper?
Yep. Circleville City Council will hold a public hearing Tuesday, August 5th, 2025 at 6 p.m. in council chambers located in the City Hall Building, 127 South Court Street, second floor, Circleville, Ohio 43113. The public hearing will be to hear the following requests: gather public input on changing from criminal penalties to civil penalties for code violations.
Thank you. So as she stated, the purpose of this public hearing is to hear comments from the public regarding changing from criminal penalties to civil penalties for code violations. This pertains to minor issues like abandoned cars, livestock within 100 feet of a home, weeds and litter, trees and shrubs that might be blocking the sidewalk, and failure to obtain proper zoning permits and certificates. We have our planner, Ms. Hannah Wynn, and our zoning inspector with us this evening. Could you please come to the podium and we will swear you in. And also, Ms. Colasar, please record that Mr. Klitzka has joined us. Come on up. You going to swear them in?
Yep.
Raise your hand, please.
Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony given before this council of the city of Circleville shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now, council has been provided with the draft of the process and specifications concerning the issuance of this administrative citations. So this will allow a violator to pay fines without having to go to court every time. Is that correct? So,
Yeah, that's right. So you should have an updated draft. We've made updates since the first one went out based on feedback that we've already received from administration. But I am here tonight to propose a pretty major change in the way that we do code enforcement. So first, I just want to give a little background information. The codes and ordinances that fall under the duties of the code enforcement officer include the zoning code, the international property maintenance code, and all the miscellaneous nuisance ordinances that address high weeds, grass, trash in yards, and many more. These codes are in place to protect and promote the public health, safety, comfort, prosperity, and general welfare of the residents of Circleville. Prior to 2022, there was no full-time code enforcement position. There were part-time employees here and there, but the responsibility largely fell on the service director, who is also responsible for all of the aspects of planning and zoning, parks and recreation, and code enforcement on top of the normal duties of a service director. For the past 3 years, the city has had a full-time employee doing the combined duties of a zoning inspector and a code enforcement officer. I did it for 2 years before becoming the city planner, and Tyler's been in this position for the past year. We've learned that the way our ordinances and city codes are written make them very difficult to practically enforce. The current penalty for any code violation is a minor misdemeanor, which makes it a criminal offense. Due to the extensive legal requirements of pursuing criminal charges, it can take up to 2 to 3 months for the city to be able to take action to get a property cleaned up and schedule a court hearing. We understand that this method is inefficient and in many cases unfair, and that's why we're proposing these changes. Many communities around Ohio use civil penalties or administrative citations for code enforcement. The intent of the administrative citation process is to add steps short of a criminal prosecution that allow the violator to pay a fine without going to court. The process will begin when the code enforcement officer confirms that a violation exists and issues a citation. On the first offense, the citation will include a $50 fine and give a time frame for when the violation must be corrected. If the violation is not corrected within the given time frame, additional citations will be issued at escalating fine amounts. The second offense will be $100. Third and higher offenses will be $175. If the violation is severe enough, and the code enforcement officer will have the ability to pursue criminal charges, i.e. the misdemeanors, on top of the fines. Fines will be placed on the responsible party's utility bill. If the violator continuously fails to comply, the code enforcement officer will cause the violation to be abated. This is typically done by the city service department employees, and the cost of the abatement will also be assessed to the responsible party. Any fines or abatement costs that are left unpaid after 6 months will be assessed as a lien on the property. Violations repeated within 18 months of the initial violation will pick up at the number of offenses where they left off instead of starting back at square one, as we do now. There will be an appeals process for those who feel they have been wrongly fined. We believe this is a much more efficient way of getting compliance with city codes. We also believe that a ticket is much more appropriate than a misdemeanor charge when it comes to violations as minor as tall grass. However, since this is a major change, we want to hear from the public and ensure that we are enforcing our codes in the most efficient and ethical manner possible. Copies of the current draft ordinance are here tonight, and they'll be available across the street at the City Administration Building at 104 East Franklin Street. I intend to compile all of the feedback from this hearing and make updates to the draft alongside the law director and come back to City Council with another public hearing in the following months. This will be another opportunity for the public to give their input before the final ordinance goes to City Council. And my door is always open for one-on-one conversations for anyone from the public or on City Council. Thanks.
Thank you. Tyler, do you have anything to add?
Nope.
Nope.
You got it all in there.
Okay. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this? No? Anyone from council have questions? Mr. Duval?
Could you explain what your paragraph number 7 means? 8, excuse me. It's the bottom of page 2. I really tried to understand it. It starts with any person who wishes to appeal.
Right. So if the appeals board denies someone's appeal and they still think that that was a wrongful denial, they still want to fight it, the next step would be to issue a minor misdemeanor so that person could then go to court and have their final say in court. It's kind of similar to the process now with the Board of Zoning Appeals, where if they deny an appeal, then it goes on to the Court of Common Pleas. But in this case, it would be to issue that misdemeanor charge and then go to
Thank you.
court. Thank you.
I have another question. Are you
Oh,
done?
I'm
Okay.
done. Thank you.
In a given week or in a given year, how many violations have you, or how many calls do you get?
It's usually, I don't know, I'd say probably 4 or 5 a week. As far, you mean like complaints?
Complaints about someone's junkyard or whatever?
Usually, yeah, 4 to 5, sometimes more, sometimes less.
Yeah, as you'd imagine, we get many more in the summer months when there is high grass or smells, things along those lines. It's a little bit slower in the winter months, but it's probably at a minimum 4 or 5.
Yeah, I just have had 3 people in the last week who have complained about, and wondering. And of the complaints, how many of those, what percentage come from rentals versus homeowners? Do you have an idea?
I do not. We don't really collect data on that. We just look at the property owners when we're issuing letters, so I don't really have good numbers on that to tell you. But
And I think regardless, sorry, from the legal perspective, regardless of whether it's from rentals or a homeowner, the homeowner is still responsible for the home. So that probably wouldn't necessarily be a thing that we would track long-term. So that obviously puts the obligation on
Who's living
individuals
there.
renting their homes to make sure that these types of violations are accounted for in their leases. Realistically, and seeing it from the perspective where I have to sit and prosecute these cases take a long time to even arrive at my desk for prosecution. And by the time we finally do get to criminal court, that's when we see the response to clean it up. By circumventing the process and having accountability, it lets us move a lot quicker. For instance, most of the time, by the time it hits criminal court, between getting the service of summons and appearing for the arraignment, they finally fix the problem after approximately 60 to 90 days of the city setting deadlines and saying you have to be compliant with this. It's not what we want to see, but frankly, we don't have any action until it arrives in criminal court versus now giving the city at least some cause of action to assess that fine, or in the event that we do have to clean it up, to assess that fine afterwards. It moves the process a lot more quicker than waiting for proper service, all of the necessary due process rights and notice to make sure that it makes it into the right hands.
Yeah. Thank you.
one
That
more thing
helps
to add.
extend.
Right now, we do operate mostly on a complaints basis because we have so many requirements. It's a lengthy process. Tyler's spending a lot of time sending letters, following up, just to keep up with the complaints that we receive. So we're hoping with a more efficient process, he can be out in the field finding violations before they're getting reported into us. So,
And I also heard from someone who did get one of your follow-up letters who had called to complain and appreciated that, so thank you.
Yes, Mrs. Hedges?
So from both of yours perspective, what's the biggest win from making this happen?
just getting compliance quicker.
So you had mentioned, or maybe it was the law director that mentioned that like 90-day timeframe.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think that this will reduce it to?
With the issuance of the citation, they'll have a time frame, which I believe we've set at 5 days in this draft, which is what we think is appropriate. They would get the fine right off the bat. They'd have to pay that and comply within 5 business days. If they don't, then they get escalating fines. So theoretically, we should be getting compliance within a week versus 2 to 3 months.
So tell me what happens if they don't?
They'll get escalating fines, and when the code enforcement officer deems it necessary, if it's after 3 and they still haven't complied, then we'll have the option for the service department to go in and take action as needed, whether it's mowing or cleaning up trash or.
And so does the process of trying to recapture the funds associated with that change at all with this?
Like the cost of the cleanup.
No, I guess I'm wondering, one of the things I've heard in the past is that you send the letter and they just don't do it.
Right.
So I guess what I'm trying to understand is what will make people do it now?
Well, they'll have to pay the fine and they'll have to
But what if
clean
they
it up
don't?
before having to pay additional fines. Because right now, when we're sending letters, there's really no
Sure.
penalty until we do get to that criminal charge phase, and at which point
We
we
now
either
have-
don't get there or the case is.
The difference is the teeth that we have. We have the ability to attach the fine to the property tax bill or a water bill. So in order to transact business at some point, we have that ability then to recoup that money. Right now, we're kind of sitting duck. We pass it along, we pass it along, we pass it along, and finally it gets to a court proceeding. Well, then now that it's in the court proceeding, obviously the court takes over. Any funds or money are going to the court, and still, we're still in the same boat until it takes that court proceeding with that threat there.
Okay.
So is the hope that having the fine attached to the letter, it would be a letter going out saying you need to have this resolved within 5 days? You have a fine already, but if it's not resolved within 5 days, then you'll have another fine? Is that going to be spelled out in the letter?
Yes.
And if they still choose to ignore that, they'll be getting it on their water bill, so they'll get a monthly reminder.
Right, yep.
this
The
as
fines
well.
will be, placed on the water bill automatically.
And is there a recourse to that though?
If
Or can
the-
they just continue to collect the fines on the water bill?
After 6 months, if there's still unpaid fines, then they will get assessed as a lien on the property taxes, so.
Okay.
It seemed like the old way too, we saw, every time we do that, every year you see properties that have, they've got thousands and thousands of dollars that are not paid and they just get tied kind of to the tax and it has to be the sale of the property, so they just let them build.
Yeah, I
But I think
guess
that would avoid that. it
I'm
seems
just
like.
trying to figure out, it's like the objective, right, is that they fix it.
Right.
Because I don't think that what we want is to collect a bunch of these and the city gets to the point where they have to go out and do it. It's like, that's not gonna be efficient
Right.
for anybody. So I'm just trying to think if it's motivating anybody in a different way to actually be in compliance.
I also think the shortcoming of our current code is, for instance, if it's something egregious, they can fix it, and then they're in compliance, and we have to start over again. Versus if we have the finding here, we can continue to go on, we can continue the course of conduct. It's not allowing you to fix it for 5 days, and then on day 6, we're back to it. Because that's the other thing that we're seeing, okay? If I move my property for a day, we restart the clock again, or if we do something, we're restarting the clock again, which gets very frustrating from the city's perspective, because again, we have to start all of the notice requirements again. Those can be expensive and very time-consuming in the monitoring of tracking where legal notices and making sure that it's provided properly, and then obviously building everything up to an entity or to bring it to the city's desk then to further prosecute it, because there are tons of safeguards that are put in place to make sure that the city has complied with all of their obligations. Not saying we're not going to here, but there's a lot of hoops to jump through especially when we get to something as simple as improper signage or trash being left, that needs to be cleaned up. I don't think anybody wants to have to busy Judge Peters' docket with those types of proceedings.
Nor do we want our service department to have to be mowing people's grass for them.
Right. And I'll just add real quick, sorry. We've been working with the City of Logan Code Enforcement Department on this. We're kind of modeling it based off of what they do because they're kind of similar size city in a similar area. And I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but their chief code enforcement official says that a large majority of their properties, once they get the first citation or fine, they do clean it up on their own. It's a pretty small percentage that, have to escalate, and an even smaller percentage that the city has to end up cleaning up in the end.
So let me ask a question that I'm sure we'll go over like a lead balloon. If it's gonna be assessed on their water bill, why can't, after a series of it getting assessed on the water bill, why can't we shut the water off?
We've decided not to do that. Some communities do. After discussing with our utilities department on the possibility of getting this added on there, we felt that we probably wouldn't want to be shutting people's water off.
Yeah, obviously, I'm just trying to think, it's like,
Yeah.
for me, again, it's about getting into compliance, and I just don't want people to be like, okay, they're sending me another letter, and I'm getting fines that I'm not gonna pay off anyway. And they're gonna go on my property tax or whatever that eventually, it's just, I think that's what I'm just trying to figure out, is there a way to curb that? I'm
Yeah.
certainly not suggesting that's the way to do it, I was just curious what the answer was to that.
And I think that this was the purpose of this forum. We're doing
Yep.
it very different than what we've done prior legislation. Normally, we will come with the legislation drafted and discuss that with you. There's a twofold hearing. This is to air kind of what the issues and concerns are, to draw the feedback, and then to craft it. Logan did do what we did. They went from the same type of system that we currently have to this newer type of system. So that has seemed to be very, productive in the number of complaints and issues that they have had to resolve. So this is kind of why this is not the typical course of a public hearing, normally where you're presented with what the legislation looks like. Here, we're here to brainstorm ideas. These are issues. I will be honest, Tyler spends the majority of his day tracking notices down, tracking what's going on, and answering to those complaints. And there's way more that he needs to be doing, but because the process is so bogged down, it is capturing all of his time.
There's a guest. That has a question.
Yes. Come to the podium if you have a question, please, or a comment.
I would like to know about
Just
this.
a minute. Could you
What
please-
happens-
Just a minute. I need you to state your name and your address, please, and she'll need to swear you in.
Doris Johnson, 360 Road Logan Street, Circleville, Iowa, 43113.
Thank you.
Okay.
Let her.
Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony given before this council of the city of Circleville shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Now,
Okay. I would like to know, when a property owner passes away, they're deceased, husband and wife, they're deceased, it's been, say, 4 years, the property has been deserted. Who pays for that to have it cleaned up? When it's the homeless people that go in and out of the house, taking stuff out of the house, and if they don't like it, they throw it in the yard. They've got Walmart carts in the alley. They throw their clothes and stuff in the cart, and then another homeless come in and go through that cart and pick out what they want, and then they'll throw it down and take off.
have you called the administration, the service department,
I've-
and talked to them
I've
about
been
that?
to the city.
Okay,
Been
good.
to the mayor's office. She's never in that I can talk to her. They always tell me she's not in. When will she be in? We don't know. So they tell me. I went to the health department, talked to them. They sent letters out to the son from the deceased parents, and he didn't respond. They called him. He wouldn't even answer the phone. He doesn't care. He doesn't want anything to do with the house. So who's going to be responsible for that?
So let me
Question to
opine,
the-
that becomes a legal issue, and the city is aware of certain properties that is an issue with. Right now, those are being presented, and they are laying at the county prosecutor's desk, because they would have to essentially foreclose on the property and open an estate. So those, at this point, my office has sent follow-up questions about certain properties regarding that, because that is within their jurisdiction to have to foreclose on those properties.
Because there's weeds over
We
my head
understand,
now.
and we are, at least from what's been referred to my office, we are attempting to rectify that, but unfortunately, that is not within what my office can handle. So my understanding in the last communication I had with the Assistant County Prosecutor, he was working with the Health Department on that.
Well, this has been 4 years, and I come to the mayor's office the 1st of March to complain about the grass being knee-high on me. And I live right next door to the property. Now, it's way over my head. I could walk out in that grass 2 weeks ago, and you'd never find me in it. That's how tall it was. Now the wind and the storms has knocked it down some, so you can see it a little bit better. But I'm getting skunks, I'm getting coon, possum, cats, snakes, and all, and even a groundhog in my yard. So what do I do about the critters now?
Well, I would prefer you make an appointment to talk to the mayor, and she will be there. She can let you know when she's there and
Today.
make an appointment.
The code enforcement officer, we are aware of 2 properties that are in your neighborhood.
Yes, there's 2.
And so we have been aware of them. We've worked with the law director's office and the service department to address those. Unfortunately, there is only so much that we can do, and that's part of the reason that we are proposing that these items go in place. Those 2 situations are very unique, in which our residents passed away, and so that creates another level.
Just the one resident
Yeah.
passed away. The one at 366, he's still alive. He's still living in a trailer. No water, no sewer, or nothing.
Yeah, those are items that the health department has to.
And he's got trash from the front of the house all the way to the alley.
Yep.
And that's where all the critters are coming from, those 2 empty places.
And unfortunately, the Health Department is the one handling that house.
Yeah, I talked to them,
Yes.
but there was nothing they could do about the 362 with all the grass and stuff. Said there was nothing they could do about it.
In terms of the deceased owners?
Yes.
Yes, that's why that is at the county prosecutor's office. for
So
that.
what do I do about all the groundhogs, coons, possums, and everything coming in my yard, trying to get in my house?
Ma'am,
What am I supposed to
All I
do
can do
about
is give you the process, and at this point, the process is the one house with the deceased owners is being referred, or it has been referred to the county prosecutor's office for foreclosure so that it can be cleaned up and assessed onto an estate. With regards to the other, I have no control over the health department. If they are aiding with that, then they will be the point of contact. When there are certain things under the law that the jurisdiction either maintains with the city or the health department to enforce. And in that instance, the health department is the entity enforcing that one.
But I would like to get rid of the critters. Now I'm gonna start setting live traps and see if I can catch them. But what do I do with them once I catch them? That's the next question.
Well, the city is working on a contract with a nuisance animal
Yeah.
provider.
Wasn't it here about 3 or 4 months ago? It was in the newspaper that you could set a live trap and catch the animal, and you could call the police department, and the police would come down and take care of that animal, take it.
No,
Yeah, it was in the newspaper,
that, our department can't do that.
but it was in the newspaper. If you caught a live critter, you could call the police and they'd come and get it.
That's not something that our police department would be able to do. So I would advise,
So I just get a gun and shoot them as I catch them?
I can't advise that. I would advise. you-
Anybody got
And
a,
this is your 30-second warning.
what?
30-second warning. You get 30 seconds.
Oh, okay. I'm not getting nowhere here either. So I might as well just sit down.
Well, thank you for bringing your concerns. It sounds like the city has been working on these properties, and I hope that it gets some resolution soon. Would anyone else like to speak this evening on this topic?
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Probably shouldn't ask it, but what happened to that nuisance ordinance that we passed?
So the nuisance ordinance is currently passed. I believe, I don't want to speak for him because he's here, but I believe the safety director is working on the manual and the requirements for that, as that would fall under
For the
his
bids and
purview.
stuff? Gotcha.
What?
For the bids and things, or, yeah, gotcha.
You want to speak to that, Mr. Pride? This is,
I guess I can speak to it. When you start, first of all, when I look for a model policy someplace, I don't find one. I've searched and searched and searched. Now, there's a lot of different companies that have contracts that you can sign with a company. But there's nothing that really, that I've been able to find where there has been an ordinance in a city that addresses the nuisance animals. One of the things that we kind of run into is there's a couple of different issues that we're trying to kind of navigate. And one of those is there a set fee? Do we set a fee? Do we have a rotating list of the people? There are 7 people in this area that are actually certified by the Ohio Department of Natural Resources to trap. And so they're certified. But how do we do that? How do we do that and make it fair, I guess? Do we do like what we do with wrecker lists and we rotate the person? If you only contract with one person and that person is on vacation or they're out of town or they're unavailable, then how long do we wait before we go to another level? How much, what kind of fee should we pay? Sometimes you might try to trap an animal and it might take you 15 minutes, and the next time it might take you 15 days. And so when we're there and we have a property that's infested with raccoons or some other kind of nuisance animal, how often do we pay that contracted person to go back there and keep doing this? So there's a lot more than just saying, okay, call this nuisance hotline and they'll come out and get your nuisance animal. There's a lot of different pieces to go into this, and so we're trying to figure that out. And so I will have a conversation with the lady that just spoke before me and see if there are some things that we can do as we're preparing some kind of a contract or some method to contract with a nuisance abatement person or people. So, okay?
thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome, Paul, thanks.
Thank you. I do want
Yeah,
to
go
go
ahead,
back to when I asked about, the landlords, of some of these places that we don't know if they own the property or not. My question is, at what point, if it's a renter, when does the landlord get only on the property taxes, or do they get informed?
They get informed from the onset.
Oh, they do, okay.
So
That's what
when we do, and that's part of the other issue that takes multiple time, obviously, there are entities that just look at the auditor's website. Well, we know that quickly property transactions can happen, so it's tracking to make sure recorder's office, auditor's office, that we track down that property owner. Additionally, there are posting and notice requirements that are left at the property itself. But essentially, the notice is sent to the property owner.
Okay, that's what.
And we know in a lot of cases that tenants will be paying the utility bill. So if we know that it's something that the owner or the landlord was responsible for, we have the option to bill it directly to the owner by sending an invoice versus putting it on the utility bill if we know that the person paying the utility bill is not the violator.
Okay. Thank you, because again, knowing that we have a high percentage of, yeah.
Ms. Hedges?
I was just gonna say, I've had 3 people from the public notify me that the YouTube connection has lost sound. So I just wanted to, and I've notified Sid, but I just want to remind people if it does come back on, that they can get the minutes from the public hearing.
Yes, thank you. Technology is wonderful until it's not.
There are at least 3 people watching in the public.
Well, that's good to know, too.
Did you look it up?
There you go.
Would anyone else from the public like to speak on this topic? Any other questions from council members? No? Okay, I anticipate you're going to come back with another draft of this in the future, you say?
Yeah, so I just wanted to kind of finish with letting everyone know again that we've got drafts available over in the city administration office at 104 East Franklin Street. Anyone from the public can come in and speak to me and/or Tyler about it. And we do have a survey out on our social media platforms to ask questions or provide input. So that's what the purpose of this meeting tonight was for, to get public input, but people can still do that via the survey that we have out. So we're asking for any and all input at this phase, and we will come back with an updated draft in the future for another public hearing to get kind of final public input before we come to you all with an ordinance.
Because tonight is just to put it out there, get the conversation going, if I'm understanding correctly.
Yep.
Then we will have an ordinance coming to committee, most likely the judicial committee, I would think, once the ordinance is ready.
Yep,
Yes, ma'am.
that's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Anything else? Okay. This public hearing is now closed at 6:29 PM. Council will begin at 7 o'clock.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.